Hey everybody, we're on 7.3 factoring quadratic trinomials. This is like our part 2 when a is 1. So again, this is standard form and we'll be talking a lot about a, b's, and c's. We're going to recap what we covered last time. So if you missed last time or want a refresher, this will help. Okay, so all of our examples here will be when our leading term, a, like the coefficient, is 1. Okay. And then you looked up here, all these other ones were not. Like here's a 4 and here's a -3. Okay? Alright, so I already wrote down like the steps on how to do this. So again, this is kind of like a recap. Well, maybe we'll start at the beginning. So what we did in the past is we like distributed these and we would end up getting like an x squared and a positive 3x and a negative 1x. And a -3, and we ended up getting 3 terms. But we weren't done because we wanted to combine like terms, and that gave us 2x for the middle. Okay, so you end up getting a quadratic trinomial. So all of our lessons that we did last time and today, we will be working with those again. So we're going to do it, kind of go in the opposite direction. We're going to try and break down that middle term to give us 2 terms. Because if we have 2 terms, then we can factor by grouping. Okay, we talked about doing like a reverse box method, or we would cut this in half and we'd factor out the left side and the right side, and so we're doing the same sort of thing today. Okay, all right. So here's the steps. If this helps. Again, we always want to see if there's a common factor, a greatest common factor. Again, we're going to have some over here to practice with. We'll start with not having them. Okay? And then we want to find the 2 things that multiply to ax squared times c. So that's where we do like our glasses. We multiply our first and last term. Okay, glasses. And need to add up to give us bc or bx, which is like our middle term. Okay, so this is when we do our glasses. Okay, so let's do that for this first problem. All right, we have our trinomial. We need to find the 2 things that multiply and add. So we need to do glasses. That would give us 10x squared. And we need to find 2 things that add or multiply to that and add to give us 10x. Okay. So again, I would maybe write down factor pairs, 1 and 10, 2 and 5. That's all we got. So it's got to be 2 and 5. So 2x plus 5x gives us 7x. And if we multiply those together, that gives us the 10x. All right, so that was step 2. And then step 3 is to substitute those 2 terms in from step 2 into the middle term. Okay, so this is where we take these 2 numbers and we substitute it in for 7x. Because we know that 2x plus 5x is 7x. So we haven't changed anything. So we'll have x squared plus 2x plus 5x, and then we have this constant plus 10. Okay. Now we have our 4 terms. For this one I'm going to do grouping first. So we could take out an x. We can divide everything by x. And that leaves us with x plus 2. For the right side, looks like we could divide both of these by 5. A positive 5. And then what's left would give us x and a positive 2. Again, we notice that these are the same, which means we can factor those out. Again, if they're not the same, then we made a mistake and we need to go back and check. And then what's left would be our x plus 5. Okay. All right, let's do another one. We'll use the opposite box method, reverse box method. So again, we need to find the 2 things that multiply and add. So they need to multiply to give us 9x squared and add to give us 8x. Okay, so factor pairs, 1 and 9. That looks like that would probably work. The other choice would be 3 and 3, and 3 and 3 can't give you 8. So, again, 1 needs to be negative and 1 needs to be positive if we multiply to give us a negative. So something like 9x and a negative 1. Okay. Again, this plus doesn't need to be a plus. It could be 9x minus 1x. And then we're going to use our grouping. Well, let's write down our 4 terms. So that's x squared plus 9x minus 1x minus 9. So again, we just took those two and replaced that middle term. Now we can write down our x squared and our 9x and our negative 1x and a negative 9. So now we just need to factor out the columns and rows. So we could take out an x, here a negative 1, here we could take out an x, and here we can take out a 9. Again, I think it's a great idea you don't need to like write it out or anything, but to kind of think about it backwards, like distribute in your mind. Like, does this make sense? X times x does give you x squared, and then x times negative 1, that gives you negative x, and that gives us a 9x. So 9x minus 1x gives you the 8x, and then the 9 times the negative 1 gives you the negative 9. So we can always double check. We could distribute that back and get the same thing. All right, so let's do a couple of these, and then there's a couple word problems, and then we can be done. All right, so here I don't have the box written down. You're welcome to write down the box if you want to use the box method. So for these ones, there's a greatest common factor. And again, on your homework, it's not going to tell you if there's a greatest common factor or not. You'll just need to look before you get started doing the glasses. Okay? So, looks like we could take out a 2. If we take out a 2, we need to divide everything by 2. So that would give us v squared plus 9v plus 20. Okay? Again, I would suggest taking that greatest common factor on the bottom with our 2 parentheses so you don't forget. Okay? So now we need to do our glasses. 2 things that multiply to give us 20v squared and add to give us 9v. So we can write down factor pairs for 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, what else? 4 and 5. Okay, and again, use your calculator. If you're not sure, just do 20 divided by 1, 20 divided by 2, that gives you 10. 20 divided by 3, that doesn't give you a nice number. 20 divided by 4, that gives you 5. Okay, it looks like the only thing that would make that work would be 4 and 5. Again, if the things that multiply is positive, then both of them have to be positive or both be negative. So here, both are positive. So 4v plus 5v gives you 9v. And then we can substitute that back in here. So we could do v squared plus 4v plus 5v plus 20. So again, the first and last term, they stay the same. It's just the middle term, we just broke that into 2. And 4v plus 5v does give you 9v. Okay, so then we could do I'll cut it in half. We'll do grouping this way. Looks like we could take out a v. That leaves us with a v plus 4. And it looks like we could take out a positive 5. So that will leave us with a v plus 4. Again, the 2 things in the parentheses have got to be the same. And since they are, that means we can take them out. Okay, we can factor those out just like we took out a v into the front. Now we can take out a v plus 4. Okay, so we'll put that in the front, v plus 4. And then what's left goes in the other parenthesis. Okay. Give either of these a try if you'd like. I'll probably do C. No, we'll do D. Pause and give this a try and see if you can do it. All right, so again, look for the greatest common factor. We do have a leading negative, so we can take out a negative, and it looks like we could divide all of these by 4. So we'll divide everything by a negative 4. All right, that will leave us with v squared and a positive 5. Sorry, did I say v? I meant y. Y. And then we could divide all of those. What did that give us? 14, negative 14. Okay, and then we'll need to do glasses. So two things that multiply to give us a negative 14y squared, and adds to give us the middle term. Again, you can always write down factor pairs for 14, 1 and 14, 2 and 7. That's it. Looks like 2 and 7 is the one we want. So maybe 7y minus 2y. That gives us 5y. And if we multiply, it gives us the negative 14y squared. So that works. So we'll do y squared. We'll put that in for the middle term, plus 7y minus 2y. And then we have our negative 14. This time I'm going to use a box method. I'll plug all those in, y squared, and a positive 7y, and a negative 2y, and a negative 14. And then we can factor those out. So looks like for this one we can factor out a y. For here we can factor out a negative 2. From here we can factor out a y. And here it looks like we can factor out a 7. So our two parentheses will be y plus 7 and y minus 2. All right, last two things. Sometimes we have word problems that we can use like as a quadratic. For example, a square has an area of x squared plus 10x plus 25. Write an expression in terms of x for the possible length and width. All right, so basically what we're asking everyone to do is to factor. So if you factor, we end up getting two parentheses, and they're being multiplied. And again, area is equal to length times width. So it's basically going to be our length times our width. So those two parentheses that we end up getting when we factor. So there's no greatest common factor, that's our first step, and then we'll do glasses. So two things that multiply to give us a 25x squared and add to give us the middle term. Looks like we could write down factor pairs. So we got 1 and 25. 2 doesn't go in, 3 doesn't go in, 4 doesn't go in, 5 goes in 5 times. So that looks like that would be a good candidate. 5x plus 5x gives you 10x, and if we multiply them, it gives us 25. So we need to substitute that in for the middle term. And we'd get x squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25. Okay, here I'm going to do grouping, but you're welcome to do the box method. Looks like we could take out an x. That leaves us with an x plus 5. And for the right side, we can take out a 5. That leaves us with an x plus 5. So our two parentheses are the same, which means we can factor those out, x plus 5. And what's left is an x plus 5. So like our length could be x plus 5, and the width would be x plus 5. Okay? Give this one a try and we'll be all done. So the Johnsons are putting into a fence in their backyard, but they're very picky with the ratio of their fence dimensions. They want to make sure that the area of their lawn is always represented by, oops, that's kind of a bad, it should be like a 20 over here. x squared minus 4x plus 20. So what expression could represent the dimensions of the fence? So what would be the length and what could be the width? So it's the same sort of thing. We'll do our glasses. 20x squared and add to give us a negative 4x. So again, we could write down factor pairs. 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Okay. What am I missing? Three doesn't. I must have made a mistake on this. If you figure it out, let me know, shoot me an email, and I'll give you extra credit. I'll have to fix that before we do our lesson. Sorry about that. So, because there's no way you could make that work. For it to be a negative 4, yeah, they would both need to be negative if this is positive. And yeah, that wouldn't work. So, sorry about that. Maybe we could come up with something else instead. But I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. Let's see. How about negative 12? Okay, if we did negative 12 instead. Negative 12 x squared and adds to give us a negative 4. Okay, so 12, 1 and 12, or 2 and 6. So that would make that work. We'd do a negative 6x plus 2x. And then we could use that. Sorry about that. So minus 6x plus 2x minus 12. And then we could do grouping, could take out an x. That gives us with an x minus 6. Here we can take out a 2. That leaves us with an x minus 6. So those are the same. We can factor that out. And what's left is the x plus 4. Or 2, sorry. Sorry about that. All right. Okay. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.